Hello, good evening. My name's Dennis Prefontaine, and I'm a longtime member of Camp Cachalot and the camp staff, and as a result of that, had a great scouting career of 43 years. I started out as a scout in Troop One. I was a Cub Scout in Pack One, but it's Troop One in St. Lawrence Church Holy Family School in New Bedford, where I became a life scout. I never made Eagle because I couldn't swim. I was a disappointment to my scoutmaster and my parents. I ended up becoming a patrol leader and a senior patrol leader and the junior assistant scoutmaster. I guess I started out in Cachalot in 1959 as a camper. In 1960, both in provisional units. My troop did not go to camp as a troop then, and was in Ranger Troop 3 with Ed Tavaz as the scoutmaster. Vic Silva was a part of that. Everett Gravely was a part of that. At Abner Pond, that was Ranger Troop 3. In 1961, I was looking for something to do. I was a freshman in high school, and I was looking for something to do. So I decided I'd apply for the camp staff. And so I walked down to the scout office at the Rodman House on Spring Street across from the Wamsetta Club and made out the camp application. And sure enough, a few days later, a week later, I got a phone call by Ed Tavaz, who ended up interviewing me and hired me to be the trading post manager for $50 for the season. And that was my first experience at camp. Tom Gorka was the program director, and we were a very young staff. As you can imagine, I was a freshman in high school. And so Tom instituted a policy where we were all called Mr. And I still have the nameplate where it was Mr. Prefontaine. And because we were young and very disjointed, he instituted a lot of discipline, and it was probably something that stuck with me my whole life. He required us to carry program notebooks and very sharp jackknives. If you had a dull jackknife, you spent the afternoon or the evening sharpening it until you could cut a piece of paper. We had to check the bulletin board in the program office by the health lodge, which was an old latrine, and meet together down by the Scoutcraft area and walk together to the dining hall singing. That was my first experience on the camp staff. We had plaid neckerchiefs. This is my first camp staff neckerchief. I still have all of them. They're all plaid, blue or green or even yellow, and different variations. And the reason we had a plaid neckerchief is we were pretty poor, and we couldn't afford staff neckerchiefs. So Tom's wife, who was the nurse, made them for us. And I still have mine, and I've worn it on occasion, but I kind of keep it in my sock drawer. I was also the trading post manager in 62 and 63. We all went to Philmont together. Vic Sylvia attended with me, and I was there for the fire in 1964, and I still have that camporee patch from 1964. And as I understand it, some of the people have put a little burn mark in the corner. But the fire was devastating, and I've seen since some reminders of that. We had hundreds of kids in camp for a council camporee. I was in a rowboat serving as a lifeguard for kids swimming in the pond, and you could see the smoke coming over the backside of where what Charge Pond was, and didn't think too much of it. But then the wind shifted, and a whole line of fire came across the backside of the pond. The state police came in and told us we had to evacuate. We left all the equipment from troops in place, and we put kids in the back of cars and pickup trucks and stake body trucks and took them all out to the ranger station where hundreds and hundreds of panicked parents were waiting. In the aftermath of that, I was allowed to go back into camp. Actually, my father, along with John Humphreys, helped fight, and Larry Harney helped fight the fire as best they could with number 10 cans full of water. Most of the buildings were saved, as you can imagine, because of the space around them. But we were allowed to go back into camp, and I took pictures of that and of the devastation of which have all been lost over time. But the devastated latrines, the platforms that were burned with just the nails, the Quonset hut, the old Jeep. It was pretty devastating to see. So I guess the decision was made by the council executive, Bob Patrick, that we would combine with Squanto for 2 seasons in 64 and 65 while the camp was being cleaned up and renovated. My father and parents stayed at camp as an outpost camp along with my brother. And I was in the trading post at Squanto along with a kid by the name of Ed Zappetto. 65, we were at Squanto, and I was on the Scoutcraft staff. Something happened. I was taken out of a trading post and put on the Scoutcraft staff. And 66, we went back, and I was the Scoutcraft director. I had the flag we had patrol flags. The waterfront had a flag, and field sports had a flag, and Scoutcraft had a flag. And our flag was called the Lord Bathing Towels. And it was myself and Danny Boucher and Charlie Humphreys and Jimmy Walder and Bob St. Pierre, and were a part of that was that Scoutcraft staff. So in 66, I was the Scoutcraft director. And in 67, I think I was called activity director. In 68 and 69, I was the program director. And then from then on, Carl Amaral followed me as program director in 70. I'd gone in the profession at that point, was in Maine as a district executive. I still remember out at Little 5 Mile Pond, there was a place called Squaw Corner where campers were put up for the parents, the wives and the children to stay while the men went in and worked in camp to rebuild the camp. In 1966, we went back to camp, and it was heart-wrenching. There was nothing there. We had nothing. There was nothing to work with. There was no rope. I remember using GIMP to tie tents to the reconstituted tent platforms that were built by the Restoration Committee and Vocational High School. All through that time, the spirit, the core we had in 61, 62, and 63 carried over with us into Squanto. And when we went back to Cachalot in 66, we reinstituted what we call Gorka style, that high spirit, singing, high discipline camp staff that we really, really did need. 67, 68, and 69 was an entire rebuilding of the camp program and infrastructure to actually rebuild the camp. In one of those seasons, it was only a 3-week camp. But I think at the peak in 68 or 69, we actually had 528 campers in camp. One of the highlights I remember was we had this rivalry with Camp Child, but we also had a rivalry with Camp Squanto. And they had this big bell, and they would ring it in the morning for reveille and for meals and things. And so Carl Amaral and I and the waterfront director, and I can't remember his name, one night stayed up really late, and about 1 o'clock in the morning, we went over to steal the bell with the camp pickup truck and got caught doing it. Somebody came up, we rung the bell by accident or something, a wrench dropped or something, and we rang the bell by accident. And so they came out and they caught us, and we were told to get out of camp and go on. And what we did was we just went down the road and waited about 45 minutes or an hour and went back and restole the camp bell from Squanto, brought it over to the dining hall. And somewhere there's a picture of that, of Carl Amaral and I and the waterfront director and one of Jim Cooney's daughters ringing the bell at the camp dining hall, at the Cachalot dining hall for Squanto to hear for reveille. So that's one of the fondest memories I have of Cachalot. But I remember Ed Tavaz, Ed Spencer, I spent a lot of time with the reforestation. Of course, Tom Gorka and I are very close. John Humphreys, Charlie's father, was the camping and activities chairman, the restoration chairman. Of course, Larry Haney, Bob Patrick is the scout executive. Sonny Moss, I was close with. And those are the kind of guys, Ken Liberty, the kind of guys that got me into the profession and made it my life's career. And of course, my dad. Guys that were on the camp staff that I have vivid memories of that were very supportive. And we kind of partnered together were Carl Amaral, Danny Boucher, Charlie Humphreys, all the St. Pierre's, the senior and junior, Bob St. Pierre, senior and junior, Dave Goldrick, Jimmy Walden, and Jeff Wallaker. And there are probably others I'm not mentioning. But those are just some of my memories of Cachalot and my scouting experience and what led me to make scouting a career for me. And hopefully I've been able to pay back the memories with thousands of kids that maybe I affected their lives as well. I got close in the Order of the Arrow. I got elected when I was the senior patrol leader. I wasn't there for the election. It was on Campfire Road, and I was home with the mumps. Yes, but I got told I got elected, and so I had my ordeal in 1961 at Cachalot. There was a heavy rainstorm. We all got called into the dining hall. We had to sleep under the tables and amongst the canoes and those kind of things. And just became a regular member, and then got a phone call that there was going to be an OA meeting at the Rodman House, the scout office. And George Pimentel and I, George lived a couple of blocks from me, came by and we walked to the Rodman House together, had the OA meeting, and I ended up being the membership chairman. And one thing led to another, and I got very active with the Order of the Arrow and ended up being on the dance team and being the membership chairman, being the unit elections chairman, being the vice chief and the chief, and then went on as area chief in the Order of the Arrow. And that had a lot of meaning for me in my life as well. Became a Vigilante member. The Ranger program was nothing more than a week-long junior leader training course, a hands-on, where we cooked all, it was patrol cooking, we cooked our own food, and we had meetings about how to conduct patrol meetings or run a troop. I would guess I was getting ready to be a patrol leader at that point. My scoutmaster, the troop committee sent me and a kid by the name of Bobby Fernandez from New Bedford to Ranger Troop 3. And the idea being we'd be in a leadership role in the troop when we got back. And that was in 1959. But it was a hands-on patrol cooking, camp tenting out, week-long junior leader training course. Dennis Green, who we've since linked up with, was a member of the camp staff that year with Ed Tavares that ran the program. And there were others, and I don't remember who they were. Well, the tripod on top of the tripod was kind of a fiasco. We didn't have an awful lot of kids coming back to stay at camp. And so Tom Gorka shot his mouth off and said that if kids came back to camp for an extra week at the end of the season, we'd have a beanhole bean and we had pirates picnics. That's something that we always did. We had a pirates picnic every year, whereby every site would get a boat and we'd put a mast on it and sails, and we'd have to row out to get the clues that were in the pond in milk jugs at the time, like Clorox bottles today, and come back and run the compass course to find the treasure. And the treasure was usually a box of candy and candy bars and those kind of things, or tickets for free ice cream at the trading post. And then at the end of it, we had a big beanhole bean bake for all the kids there. And we all dressed up as pirates. That was kind of fun. We had the other thing we had behind the dining hall was a tramway that Gorka built, and we put it up every year. It was a tramway. You got pulled up on this large line, a cable, and kids would pull you up with pulleys, and they'd let you go, and you'd swing all the way down and land inside a tripod somewhere with a bunch of padding all over it. It was great fun. It was certainly it was not OSHA approved by today's standards, believe me. But the tripod on top of a tripod was something that was promised to the kids, that we'd build this big tower. And you've probably seen, people have seen pictures of it since. And Mike Ramis is in the picture, and Larry Bebo's in the picture, and Tony Brito's in the picture, and a number of other folks that I remember. And but we came to the conclusion that we didn't have any trees big enough to build that kind of a tower. So we ended up devising, or Gorka devised, this engineering feat of a tripod, or a tripod on top of a quadrupod, so that we get a 30-foot tower built to satisfy that commitment. But that was great fun. Well, interesting enough, I found all my old camp song sheets. We tore the place apart downstairs, and I found a bin with old patches and the old Scoutcraft flag. And I found my file folder with song sheets in it, and there were all of them: Scouting Spirit, and The Ants Go Marching One by One, and Johnny Verbeck, and The Happy Wanderer. There were dozens and dozens of songs that we sang. But the couple that stick out for me was the welcome song to Cachalot. We welcome you to Cachalot. We're mighty glad you're here. We set the air reverberating with a mighty cheer. We'll sing you in, we'll sing you out, et cetera, et cetera. But the one I can't find, and we've asked everybody we can think of, is the departure song that we sang in the dining hall on Saturday morning. The camp staff would get up in front of the fireplace and say something. The song went something like, "We're sorry to see you go. We hope you'll come back. We'll see you again next year," or something to that effect. Nobody can find that song. So those were some of the songs that stuck with me. Scouting Spirit, Head, Shoulders, Knees, and Toes, Our Paddles Clean and Bright, were all songs we sang at campfires, both at Little 5 Mile Pond, at that campfire ring in those days. And then, of course, I guess the camp staff took it on in 68 or 69. We started building the new campfire ring that's just out behind the boathouse. And I've seen it since, and it looks pretty much the same. It's been some improvements and some expansion, but the basic plan of that bowl overlooking the pond, a 5 Mile Pond, was the spot we picked. And I distinctly remember Sonny Moss telling me when we started to build it, he said, no, I guess it was Jim Cooney, who was the camp director in 68 and 69. He said, that's a good idea that you're building that campfire ring as big as it is. How are you going to fill it up? And that was a concern that we had, was that we just didn't have enough kids coming to camp to fill up that size campfire ring. My father got the Wall of Fame, and we were invited to go to receive the plaque and take part in the festivities. And Dave Anderson was scout executive then. And Dave and I were close over the years as well. And so we went, and that was the first time I'd set foot back in camp since 1970. That was in, I think, 2010 or 11. Hang on a minute. It was, hang on, I can tell you. It was in 2010 that we went back. And it was difficult for me. It was very difficult for me to go back. I always made a practice in my career of never going back to any camps, whether it be Squanto or Sequoias or Deer Lake, or now Resolute or Knobscot. I just never go back. It's not mine. I made my contribution. I have my memories. So going back to Cachalot in 2010 was it was difficult. I shed a tear or two, but the interesting thing about it was I recognized it, and the things that were the same were great. They were the same. The 21 Club smelled the same, and I went to my old campsite. It's in Sleepy Hollow. I saw where my old tent was, and on the camp staff where all the cabins are now. And what was changed and what was improved was warranted. The boathouse became the welcome center, and the new kitchen was put on the dining hall. That was after my time. My father helped build that as well. The kids from New Bedford Vocational High School helped build that and outfit it. So it was difficult to go back. I'm glad I did. I've been back on occasion since, probably 3 times. It gets a little easier when you go back, but it was difficult in 2010. I didn't know what to expect. And so I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did. The water's just as clean. No, there was, we had this pickup truck. We had a yellow pickup truck that we got from war surplus, or military surplus. And I think there's a picture of it floating around somewhere I've seen, parked by the dining hall. And at the time when we got it, it had a bubble gum machine on top, one of those lights that went round and round, and had a big sign on the back that said, "Follow me." And it was a big V8 engine. And it was used when the planes came into, I think, the Otis Air Force Base at the time, that the planes would follow this truck with the light on and a big sign on the back said, "Follow me," to the right respective spot to park. Well, we got the truck, and the sign was taken off, but the bubblegum machine stayed. And I guess, I don't know what year it was. I was probably scout craft director or maybe program director. And we were having a problem at Little Long Pond, with kids drinking beer and carousing around and parking and all that stuff. So what we would do is, I forgot who it was. It was probably the George Pimentel, or maybe in Carl Amaral or Danny Boucher. We would put our campaign hats on, and we get in the truck and we drive down there real quiet, and we shut the lights off. And as we got really close to where these kids were carousing around, we turned the bubblegum machine on. And you see all kinds of heads pop up in the backseat of cars and things. So we had a great time doing that. And I never got caught, but nevertheless, a lot of other kids did.